Manchester United to go big, sign one midfielder, one marquee signing. It's going to be Anderson, Tonali, Tchouaméni, and then they're going to surround that marquee signing by some cheaper options. That seems to be what a lot of journalists are thinking at the moment. To be honest, it's probably exactly what a lot of fans have been thinking as well. Manchester United will spend pretty big on one midfield player signing, and maybe we're going to look at some cheaper options as well. So in terms of this one, if you're watching it in the live, you can vote on who you think is the most likely signing, whether it's going to be Sandro Tonali, with a lot of stories about him recently. Elliot Anderson has been reportedly Manchester United's top target for, I don't know, quite a long time now. So if you're looking at the stories, I do have a lot of information I can go through as well on the different situations at the club and a bit of an update on a few things as well. But just to go quickly for the most, maybe this is Man United's favourite targets, and they're probably the most difficult ones, and it probably means they won't be the first couple of deals we do. It does mean that more likely than not, we will go for someone like Ederson to start with. We will look at Matheus Fernandes as well as potentially another deal that gets done quite quickly. And then the most expensive deal is probably going to be happening later in the transfer window. It might be a difficult one. There's a lot of factors at play in this situation. One is going to be like, do we see a situation where Manchester City do not actually value Anderson to the same extent that Nottingham Forest do, and the price there what might be might be difficult to meet Forest valuation initially. Also, there is a rumor, and I saw this morning. I don't know how good the source is, but there was a rumor that Haaland's considering his future, and maybe we're having a situation where, for me, Manchester City, they've got a lot of good players. So Pep leaving, it changes a bit, but they've still got a lot of very good football players at that club. If Haaland considers leaving, and I don't know which clubs in world football could meet his salary demands, then for me that changes things completely. If you take Haaland out of Manchester City, I just don't see them winning a league title next season at all. I think he's going to be, to be honest, if he would jump ship to another Premier League club, that's a decent Premier League club. I think Holland makes that team a title challenger on his own if you've got a stable base to build around. So no, that could be potentially interesting news, but I don't really trust the sources on Holland so far. But I think that might be speculation and might be building as well. So hopefully something like that does happen, and we will be. Hopefully, if Man United are going to benefit from anything happening to City, that would be a bonus. But I'd imagine if Manchester City really did sell Haaland, it would more than likely be a non-Premier League club. So it was a little bit like teams in Germany not sent to Bayern Munich. I think there's some high-profile players in the club. If Manchester United were selling Bruno Fernandes, there's almost like, unless it's unavoidable, there's almost no way Man United would sell to a Premier League club. It's like Paul Ince going to Inter Milan, and we see like Liverpool sell players abroad as well. Like you don't want to sell players to your rivals. But no, this is the situation regarding these two players. The too many situation is also complicated because Manchester United do value too many a lot. They think he would be a top quality signing. The difficulty is that too many doesn't really want to leave Real Madrid, and it depends a lot on Jose Mourinho coming in, what he wants to do. There's rumours that they're interested in Dallo, which we saw that a year ago, and I don't really know what to think about the Dallo interest from Real Madrid. I can't really imagine, I don't know, Real Madrid fans being massively behind that one. But it does show that potentially at Real Madrid you could have a few different things coming in. We know that the way Mourinho wants to play might be very different from what they've been doing over the last couple of years. And this was a story I saw last night. So I will jump into comments in a second. I just wanted to go through a lot of the angles on the different stories. And this story last night, a lot of people are looking at too many as maybe being cheaper than Anderson. And I think when you look at the three potential marquee signings, it's very difficult to drop a price on them and say how much would they actually cost. Like, would Anderson actually cost 125 million? Would Sandro Tonali cost like 80 million ish? Like we're kind of guessing a little bit, but too many. A lot of people thought that too many might be cheaper than those deals and would probably have a higher salary, but would maybe be a cheaper transfer to get done. Maybe Manchester United will end up paying if they got too many. Maybe he would cost kind of similar to like whatever Tonali and Anderson cost in the end. So I don't think you're going to have one deal significantly cheaper. These are all going to be quite expensive deals. I think when you do one of these deals, I think it feels like almost it feels like there's no chance at all of doing two of these deals. So sometimes people say, "Look, would you be happy getting Anderson plus too many if you got no other midfield signings. I don't think financially that's going to be a thing that happens. But this is something I read quite late last night, and it's about Manchester United potentially preparing, and well, this is BBC Sport, so you'd assume that the sources are quite good. But Manchester United preparing a £69 million bid for Aurelien Tchouameni, and they see him as potentially, I suppose, if you're looking at replacing Casemiro, there's lots of things that Tchouameni is extremely good at that would make a lot of sense regarding this one. And I think if you're looking at a like-for-like replacement for Casemiro, there's not really a player out there, in my opinion, that could replace him like for like. But you could probably say if you drop Tchouameni in there, it probably would be about as close as you can get in terms of like defensive qualities, passing abilities, and great in the air as well. So it probably ticks a lot of the boxes in terms of like a like-for-like replacement, but obviously a different sort of player. And it depends. If you're looking at too many instead of Casemiro, and then you look at Agate being replaced by maybe Mathis Fernandez and maybe like Toby Collier, who was not really playing much, but he was part of the squad for a lot of the season, being replaced by somebody like an Ederson. I think you could look at an upgrade there and say that would be potentially a good midfield. You could probably replace one of those names with Angela Stiller has been not talked about as much, but no, potentially Angela Stiller might be on his way to Real Madrid as well. So there's kind of a lot of at the moment there's a lot of unknowns, and I think that also there's a lot of unknowns what's happening with Manchester City. Apparently that they still see Anderson as a key signing, and maybe Anderson still sees the move to Manchester City as the right deal for him. But there's a lot of things. I think there's a lot of twists and turns in this transfer window. So let me go through a few of the comments as well. And I guess like with this stage of the transfer window, it's like we haven't even hit June yet, so there's going to be a lot of things to decide at the moment, and a lot of things in other clubs as well. Okay, so now we can do like a sort of panic poll at some point. Say, Culture Spot says you're certain we will end up in Europa League spots owing to the extra match load, and but then it's time we won that trophy. Um, I don't know. I think the drop off from the top. If you're looking at the Premier League, if you get 5 positions into the Champions League, I don't feel particularly concerned that I don't know if we should be that worried about it. I think that if we're looking at now what the options are, that at the moment it's difficult to say what's the most likely. I thought the most likely might be Tonali. Like Tonali might be a battle with Arsenal, but because too many's already at Real Madrid, I think it's difficult to leave Real Madrid. Like Real Madrid are a team that they've got so much history that let's be honest, like Real Madrid are the best, are the biggest club in the world. Like they're the biggest club in the world. They've won the most Champions Leagues by a distance, and walking away from that club, you've got to be forced out. So if too many becomes a Manchester United player, it's not because he's chosen Manchester United as the best place to play football. It's because he's effectively been moved out and they've signed his replacement. So there is still talk of Rodri, Angela Stiller, and potentially, we could see some twists in that as well. We could see different players going. And I think that even with the team we had this season, I don't think we were particularly like since Christmas or since January, we've been accumulating more points than any team in the Premier League. So I think that to drop massively is possible. I think people look at Newcastle, and I said Newcastle would drop. This all depends on Man United's transfer window in its entirety, not just like one signing. It depends if we do enough across the board. So let's go through a couple of this other stories as well. That in terms of like signing a flagship signing, a marquee signing, however you want to determine it, then this is what Man United, according to like a lot of journalists, like this isn't just Luckhurst, this is like the BBC as well, and this is most journalists in football saying that these are 3 players Man United apparently want to sign one of those players. Okay, most of us are now probably resigned to thinking, okay, it looks like with City, it feels like an inevitability that City will get Elliot Anderson. Okay, that for me feels like something that's going to happen, and if we kind of write that deal off then too many for me. It seems like 75% likely he stays at Real Madrid unless Mourinho says, "Look, we're going to rebuild. You're not part of the rebuild." It would seem crazy because he's one of the best players in world football. So if you're going to rebuild Real Madrid and too many is not required, then that would be very interesting. But I'd be surprised with that one, to be honest. And it seems that Man United, that in terms of Ederson, the price is probably going to come down a bit. It's going to be, I think this will probably be our cheapest signing of the summer transfer window, if I'm honest. Like, I know we're linked to quite a few players. I don't think we're going to sign too many cheap deals. Um, the only player I see linked close to this sort of price is maybe someone like Hayden Hackney. And I don't think we'd sign Ederson plus Hackney. I think we'd be looking to sign at least, if we're going to get three midfield players in, I'd be very surprised if at least two of them are not Premier League players. I'd be looking at maybe Matheus Fernandes, Alex Scott. I don't see Beliebers being up there at the moment, although I could be surprised. It could be that we suddenly go back to Belieber. But I'd imagine Matheus Fernandes seems to be the most likely. And then you'd look around the league and say, right, who else? Anderson, unrealistic. I think Alex Scott, Tyler Adams may be options. Like, it seems that there's no interest in Gomez anymore. But no, this is kind of the situation where I think United will have to make some decisions that are going to be quite cheap. So Marps is saying that no, maybe it's going to be. Do you see Tonali going to Arsenal as well? Because that's the other one where Manchester United might be also not getting Tonali because Tonali might be an Arsenal player. Again, that's one where I think if United are going to be serious, you have to get one of these targets. So again, with Vanderson to City, is there any way? Do you think Manchester United could actually outbid? Like, and should they outbid? Like, would you be happy? Because this is one where people can debate it and disagree. If Man United got Anderson, but it meant we paid, I don't know, 15 million more than say Manchester City were prepared to pay. So if City value him at 90 million and Manchester United go in with like 100, 110, 100 plus add-ons or something like that, would you be happy with Manchester United effectively just paying more money and getting the deal done? That no, it could be that with Anderson, he could have decided already, in which case it doesn't matter. But is it worth actually? Do you think Manchester United should be actually going for that one? And say City will get Anderson for 90 million. That's just how they do things. I mean, they got good value for Mark Gahey, didn't they? If this happens, then to be honest, I don't think I'd be surprised if that's kind of the price he's worth. But then with Manchester City, if they get a player for 90 million, then according to I know you say that's how they do things. I think sometimes the deals Man City have done are probably not officially going through the books. Like if you look at some of the financial irregularities at Manchester City, there's a lot of money going to other people. And I think what we've seen is instead of like having a transfer fee where agents are getting cuts and things, Man City have been bypassing the system. And yeah, so some of the deals Man City have got over the last 5 to 10 years are probably not as good as it appears because of the way they've been doing things. But no, £90 million probably sounds like a fair evaluation, to be honest. And welcome to chat Real as well. Yeah, please get your comments and questions in if you want for an interactive stream as well. I'll try and go for as many as possible. If Anderson sees a move to Manchester City as a best option, he's not the brightest one, says Vril. So not a fan comment, but a realistic view. Chelsea and City are the riskiest places to go at the moment. There does seem to be a lot of people are thinking that there's going to be a clampdown on the rules and say, we're saying clamp down. I think they're going to it's not about questioning whether City are guilty. It's about deciding what sort of punishment they get. So there was a lot of people yesterday talking about they're thinking that there's going to be something happening regarding Man City getting found guilty and what sort of punishment they're going to get. I mean, Pep Guardiola jumping ship, it seems, also considering what's happening. And if it's true, like I saw a couple of comments this morning, if it's true that we're going to see Haaland pushing for an exit as well, then if you're going to join Man City, I think Chelsea's probably a risky option as well. Yeah, because at the moment there is potential big downsides to those two clubs. If you're going to sign for City for a 5 year deal, I think you'd want to know. Maybe that's why Elliot Anderson's going to wait till after the World Cup, and maybe with Man United, if you want to get Anderson, maybe the best tactic is just to wait. Like, I know people say act early, but at the moment that we don't know what's going to happen with Manchester City. And if Manchester United are going to get the deal done early, they're going to have to spend huge money. Like, there's no way that Forest want this deal done quickly. They want this dragged out and they want a bidding war. they want to get as much interest in Anderson as possible. And I think Anderson also he benefits financially if the deal becomes bigger as well. He probably wants to go to the World Cup, have a good World Cup. England are going to be a decent team, and if England can go, maybe I don't know how far people think England can go in the World Cup, but a very good World Cup for Anderson personally in England as a team might then push up the price to crazy money. So I think there's always going to be a bit of a gamble, but I don't see Anderson as actually getting much cheaper. Like worst case scenario is if England don't do very well in the World Cup, I think Anderson's still got what he's done this season at Forest to fall back on. So I don't see there being a cheap deal for Anderson, unfortunately. But Tony's saying if Anderson wants to play at a half-empty stadium, no, I think with this one that no one knows at the moment. Like nobody knows what Anderson really wants. I think lots of people are speculating that Man United are too slow, but nobody really knows what's going to happen as well. Stephanie, welcome to the chat. Says, if imagine if Mourinho at Real Madrid can't keep too many and they turn their attention to Anderson, and so wouldn't that upset Premier League apples cart? Can you imagine with this one? Do you think that a lot of the stories of Anderson is? I think Anderson is going to be going to the best possible option. Like, I don't think we're going to have a situation where I don't think we're going to have a situation where Anderson wants to decide quickly. He's going to be making the biggest move of his career, and this is the one season where Elliot Anderson can pretty much pick from any club he wants to go to. Like Manchester United, the biggest club in England, wants him, and Manchester City, the most successful club over the last sort of 5 years, want him. Haven't seen any story with Real Madrid, but they don't tend to spend huge. I think Real Madrid tend to want players that are already proven at the highest level. And Elliot Anderson is on the way up there, but he's not been dominating Champions League games, lifting like the European Cup and those sort of things. So I think Anderson is a player that maybe he is the sort of player that Real Madrid go for in terms of players on the up. But I think at the moment, I think Real Madrid wants them. They want some established stars. I think maybe they do want Rodri because Rodri was a key player when Man City won the treble, and that's what they're hoping that they get. I think from Rodri, they're just hoping for like a few games, and the difference could be it could be like Kante at Chelsea. You put in a few massive matches towards the end of the season in the Champions League, in the group, say in the semi-final, final, and that's what they're looking for. I think Real Madrid are buying a player that gets them over the line in the Champions League. That's what they want. So Elliot Anderson could be that player in the future, but I think Real Madrid tend to buy players in their prime or get players in their prime if they can. And I think that's why they're looking at Rodri. That we can debate Rodri and say Rodri looks injury prone, hasn't been back to his best since but they're looking at they're probably looking at Rodri playing just a few games, and that's all he needs to do. The games in La Liga, they can win most of those games regardless of who's in the squad. But if you're looking at trying to win the Champions League, which I think is that's the primary focus for Real Madrid. Like Champions League is going to be is their bread and butter, isn't it? That's the competition they want to win. They're looking at who can get us over the line in like one-off games against Arsenal or against maybe even Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich, and they might be seeing like Rodri as one of those players. I think that the Rodri to Real Madrid thing is going to be um, probably ongoing, and I think Rodri would be up for going to Real Madrid, considering also there could be some punishments that Man City are getting, points deduction, transfer ban, all these sort of things. So it might be that Rodri, if he's going to be looking at moving, and his contract I think is up anyway. If I was Rodri, he might well be jumping ship as well. Welcome JSN to the chat. So even if we don't spend big money on these guys, imagine how much we'd have to spend in other areas, positions, if we spend well and we're smart in our approach. Now, I think you need to actually, yeah, you need to consider like there's a bigger option here, a bigger picture as well. I think with United, the key is like not to make bad signings and make signings that are going to be effective over a number of years. I think there's also, if Anderson costs 125 million, you could look at getting you could get two players that could be you could get Matheus Fernandes and Alex Scott for cheaper money than that probably, and you'd have to look at that as being maybe more sensible in the short term. Anderson's a good player, but he's not the only midfield player Man United could buy and progress with. Like we could definitely, we could look at a more team orientated approach rather than like we don't think we need to go the Galactico route and just spend crazy amounts of money. Um, so yeah, I think a lot of people are expecting uh, the not the not the harshest punishment, but it would be quite nice to see the Premier League take it seriously and give them a proper punishment. But if no, part of City's punishment is a transfer ban. To be honest, the way Manchester City were moving in January did make me think that there was two factors at play. One's going to be, can they buy themselves can they buy themselves the league title in January, which they tried to do, and also can they can they almost like maybe make a transfer ban not hit them so hard. So I think Chelsea did the same thing. Chelsea have had a transfer ban in the past, and I think Chelsea got around it somewhat by just signing a lot of football players before the ban kicked in. They just signed a lot of people. So I think with Man City, they could well get a transfer ban, but I would not be surprised if Man City spent huge before a transfer ban, and then it didn't really affect them so much. So that for me is something to consider as well. That it might be that they do accept the transfer ban and they expect a transfer ban and they get around it somewhat by just spending huge amounts of money. I mean, it would be annoying, wouldn't it? Because I think that's exactly what Chelsea did. They didn't buy any players for, was it like an 18 month transfer ban or something like that? But they did buy so many players as well. That's the thing, I would say. So those who gave up on Manu and wrote him off, I don't think they're the same people. I think people have different opinions. I think most people in the chat are going to have a completely different opinion on multiple players as well. I'm saying Belieber, Fernandez, Ederson, that's the three we're going to sign for midfield. And if Agate stays, it will only be two of them. No, if Agate stays, I think it would be very surprising if Agate stays. I don't see Agate staying at the club. The only reason I could see that potentially happening is no, I think the only reason why like Agate might stay is if Man United feel they can't sell him. But I'd be so surprised if Agate's at the football club. He's literally not getting any games at all. Say, Arsenal wasn't great this season. Very lucky. Yeah, I agree. I agree. They were very PGML lucky, zero penalties. Lucky. You have to have a little bit of luck, to be honest. Have I done calculations with how much money the club earned? I don't think we need to do too much money. I don't think we need to do too many calculations about how much money the club's earned. That the In terms of how much money the club has earned, then Manchester United have made a huge amount of money this season. If you think about just getting to the Champions League is worth about 90 million per year. Manchester United's revenue from TV, we probably get a bigger cut of TV deals this year because we've been playing so many games on a Monday. So, although it's been not great for fans, playing on a Monday and Friday and getting games on TV more is going to give Man United more money. So, also, if you want to kind of look at the financial situation, Manchester United's wage bills come down massively, like almost by 50% over the last few years. And it's probably going to be hitting like a low point at this moment in time because Casemiro's salary is gone, Sancho's salary is gone. His contract, I think it expires, doesn't it, in June? And you're looking at Marcus Rashford is probably almost certainly going to be done deal at some point. And we might even be looking at loaning out Mason Mount, who's probably the apart from Bruno, probably the biggest salary at the club. The one deal that might go up a bit is that Bruno Fernandes will probably sign a new contract, and I think Man United will be probably doing that quite soon. I think Bruno Fernandes will probably commit another couple of years at the club, and that will be probably the most expensive contract on the books. But to be honest, I think in terms of a wage structure, I think at one point Roy Keane was the highest paid player as club captain, and I think that makes sense. If you're most important player and club captain is going to be earning a bit more than the average person at the club, that makes sense. Tony says the window only opens June the 15th. Yeah, the World Cup starts like a week earlier, doesn't it? Like on or 4 days earlier on the 11th. So it could be that that happens. And if it did happen, I think like I don't know what points deduction you'd see, but if there was a crazy points deduction for Man City, I think most people, the biggest news would be a transfer ban, and maybe with this one, maybe the length of the transfer ban. So if the transfer ban went over two summer windows, that might be enough to put off any player signing for them or holding out. Because I was thinking that you could ban Man City from signing players for a year does that mean that some of the targets just wait 12 months? It might mean that, realistically, it might mean that if any players also leave the club, and we know that they got Silva leaving, I think if Rodri leaves, then it would make it difficult for Man City. And you could have a scenario with Maresca going there. You could easily have a scenario where maybe Man City actually missed out on Champions League football. That they weren't exactly convincing this season. And I know they've got some good players in the squad. They do have a lot of, they do have a lot of issues as well. That some of the, they do need a bit more. I think if you look at that situation, if they got banned from signing players this year, then you might have some players that think they can hold out for a year and then join Man City. But it might be that they miss out on Champions League football. So I think having no new transfers in for City would be bad, but would it mean that Anderson would join Man United? That's probably the question. Like, if you banned Manchester City from signing any players this summer, and you banned them for 12 months, say, would that mean that Anderson just stays at Forest for a year, then goes there? It's difficult to say, isn't it? It's pretty difficult. I think with this one that Agate wants to leave and Man United want to sell him, I think you just find a price. Like you find a price where Agate is effective. I think most people have looked at Agate and people have looked at what's happened with some players and different leagues they've gone to. If you look at Rasmus, he looks way better in Italy. If you look at McTominay went from being a player that a lot of people criticised at Man United to being in a Ballon d'Or competition. That was for me a bit crazy, but that was the difference. And then we're seeing players come from. If you look at Wirtz, he comes from the Bundesliga, where people say he's one of the best players in the world. Really struggles in the Premier League. So if you put Agate into Galatasaray, who are interested, or you put Galatasaray into, I don't know, Roma, I think you see a player that's going to look a lot better as well, just a lot better. So, no, it would be interesting. No, I think yeah, we're Man United fans. If we got to decide City's punishment, it would be, yeah, very brutal. I think I did see something yesterday. I don't know if it's going to be true or not, and it could be speculation, but there was some speculation that some of the rules that Man City have broken, because they've broken them for so long, and because when they've been caught, they've shown zero remorse and they've tried to fight it. They might be looking at trying to force the owners to leave the club. So I don't know if that's something that could happen. I know they do have these tests they brought in terms of like whether you're allowed to buy a Premier League club. I'm wondering whether there might be something along those lines where potentially the owners look at being maybe the Premier League tries to move on those owners. I don't know if they could do that, but if they did do that, then that would pretty much end City as a club anyway. So they would be nowhere near what they are. So if they did that, then that would be for me that would end City. Like if the Premier League did move the owners on, then Manchester City would be. I think they'd be a Premier League club still, at least for a bit, but that would be gone. Um, Tabasa says they will get a slap on the wrist. The thing is, they don't actually contribute loads to the Premier League. Like they don't have a fan base. Like they will accrue fans around the world because they've had success. But if Man City drop down out of the Premier League, I think the Premier League will be like, if anything, maybe better off because you'd actually have teams with global fan bases built upon legitimate trophy winning over decades and decades and going back a generation. I know City had a few good years in the 60s, but let's be realistic. City were when Man United won the treble. I can't even remember what league City were in. I think it might be the Championship, but it could even be League One. And the Arsenal winning the title this season, I think it annoyed Man United fans in the UK more because yeah, they just had they got a fan base, and Liverpool and Arsenal have always got going to have the second and third biggest fan bases in the UK. And I think you could see a situation with City that if they did like move the owners on, I mean, I think like Tony's saying the fit and proper owners test. I think the rules have changed since Manchester United got taken over, and the Glazers would not be able to do that sort of leverage takeover they did. Um, and so the rules do change. And I think we saw with like Abramovich getting effectively, well, he got kicked out probably by the UK government, but you could see that there is if the Premier League want to clean things up a bit, and to be honest, when there's money being involved, I think you want to have the reputation of the league at least protected. It'd be quite good to see City moved on, but I don't know what's going to happen. say simple solution with Chiti. It's like Premier League clubs could just refuse to do deals with Manchester City, and they could do. I think Forest will definitely. The problem is you've got lots of owners in different clubs. They want to make money as well, so they will sell to Manchester City to get the best possible price, even though they probably know City are breaking the rules. But no, we saw stories with Chelsea have broken the rules multiple times and they get away with it. So unfortunately, it's a bit. I don't know what you can do. It's a bit annoying, isn't it? And so from the recent, so let's go back to the transfer stories and the news. From recent reports, let's say one or two things. Edison deal could be done cheaper or as a better midfielder to get. So the way I was looking at this is if you look at this, like Man United have effectively got this deal done if they want this deal done. Like if they want to get Edison done, it could be, they could be the second that the transfer window opens, we could be like, here we go, Edison. And the price is not going to be loads. Like we're looking at £38 million and maybe some add-ons on top of that, but the add-ons are probably going to be, getting European football, Edison actually playing a significant amount of games. So the add-ons will probably be a minor amount, but the salary is the interesting point that it's going to be less than 100k a week. We understand. So this could be, a bit cheaper than people thought initially. I think he's only got 1 year on his contract, but Atletico Madrid would have paid, I think, close to maybe like 34, 35 million. So this might be it might be a combination of, we know Atalanta, they're dropping down the league quite a lot. They do need to get some money in. I think this is that Atalanta just want to get some money for Edison now. They wanted loads a couple of years ago, and it would have been more like, say, 45 to 50 a year ago. And maybe this is about the maximum they can rinse out this deal. I don't think it's necessary. I think the cost of this player could come down. Like I don't think there's going to be, if Edison only wants Man United and there's no other clubs at the table, I think United could get this transfer fee down because there's no one else going to be interested. Actually, there's no one else negotiating now because Edison has pretty much just broken off negotiations with other clubs. This is the deal that Man United could get done. One of the things that might be a factor is I'm not sure who his agent is, but it could be that we've done a few deals with them in the past. It might be that this is just going to happen at some point. The question might be for Man United is this deal being done because it saves money for a big deal? Like if we're kind of trying to balance the books here, and we're kind of looking at midfield as the most important part of the rebuild. If we're looking at how much is it going to cost, if the price can be a bit lower, and it means we can spend a bit more. So I get the feeling that Man United, that maybe we've got an unrealistic idea of how much we can get deals done for, and a lot of it's going to be out of our hands. Like the market value might be going up a lot, so a lot of it will be out of Manchester United's hands. But maybe this is going to be that. I think 38 million is no, it's not the cheapest deal, but then I don't know what the market's going to be like. If Elliot Anderson did actually go for, I don't know, if Elliot Anderson did actually go for over 100, then if you're spending like less than 40, then you kind of have to hope that Edison can do what he was doing a couple of years ago and maybe be that level of effectiveness. It could be that Edison becomes like a good like sort of squad player that we talk about in a few years' time, thinking actually not a bad deal. But no, it's difficult to say. So Brazil national team doesn't want Edison. I think that playing for Brazil. I mean, at the moment, there's a few team players playing for Brazil I don't think are fantastic. But no, I think with this one, that what we're saying is that do we think that Edison's as good as Casemiro? I don't think Edison's got the skill set that Casemiro's got. But in terms of like in the Premier League, international football though, you're going to get a bit more time, aren't you? So it probably suits Casemiro and doesn't highlight Casemiro's weaknesses. I think in the Premier League then sometimes there's definitely a lot of evidence in the Premier League where it's not that you have to be as technically good, but you do have to be pretty physical. You do have to have a good engine, and it could be that Edison, that in a weird way, that maybe for Brazil, it's like Casemiro actually looked a lot more effective in the Europa League when we were playing when we had Ruben Amorim as manager and Erik ten Hag as manager, and when in the Premier League just if your team set up badly, he didn't look as good. And it could be that this one saying that if Manchester United are playing with Casemiro in midfield, they must be mindful, surely, about the team shape and about how much Casemiro can get forward and how much he can recover. So there must be some, what's the word? It must cause Man United to play a very slightly different way with Casemiro in midfield because they know that he can't cover as much distance as some players like Ederson. I know that Casemiro has been good this season, but if you start putting in 2 games a week, I think it's going to be a bit more tricky, isn't it? Just to see that one. Kate saying, "What should we do next season?" So what do you think Manchester United should do? What should the approach be? Because you've got a couple of options where Edison's a cheap deal. I think Matheus Fernandes is a cheap but very good deal that we could do as well. And then if you get those deals done, you can look at Alex Scott, you can look at Angela Stiller, you can look at you could still. I think too many feels like the least realistic signing because I think that why did he leave Real Madrid? And maybe what we could be seeing is that um, would Tonali be a panic buy? Like if we're kind of waiting, like how long would you wait for? Would you buy Tonali now and just get the deal done? Can you say if Arsenal sign Tonali, City sign Anderson, they will get better as well. And so we'll make do with a few cheapo midfielders. It depends on which players that you get. Like I think when you're looking at say cheap, like I think Matheus Fernandes is a cheaper option, but is a very good option. Would I be fine if our owners wait for transfers only after the World Cup? Well, definitely not. Definitely not. If you wait till after the World Cup, then that for all of the transfers, then I think that's just really poor business because the transfers could actually cost more after the World Cup, and not because of the World Cup, just the way the market changes. That once you got say for example, like too many signs a contract extension at Man City, at Real Madrid, he's gone. We don't know what's going to happen with Rodri, but it's potential he leaves as well, and potential that they get Anderson at City. If Man United are going to wait around, all that will happen is you'll have less options available, and those options will cost more. So you could ask some Newcastle fans, are they happy that Newcastle took a long time to sort out the Isak situation and then spent very big on Alanga for 60 million and then probably panic bought Wissa for whatever it was, like 58 million. So you could look at that and say that what happened with, what happened with Newcastle last season is an example of what happens if you wait and you react too slowly. So no, Man United should definitely. I don't mind doing some deals after the World Cup because you have no idea. No one knows which deals you can get done early. That it might be that it might not even be Man United's control. Elliot Anderson might be determined to just not move until after. He might have agreed already, but he might be just not saying anything. But he might be just waiting for the World Cup. And there's a couple of factors in there. Is if we buy players after the World Cup, you're not going to be getting, you're not going to be getting too much pre-season. To be honest, I think a lot of players won't be getting a lot of pre-season anyway, because after the World Cup, they're going to be having a rest. They're going to come back late. It's not going to be ideal. But if you buy players, you can buy a mix, can't you? You can buy some players. Let's be realistic here. That which players are not going to the World Cup? Like Matheus Fernandes is not going to the World Cup. Edison's not going to the World Cup. Tonali's not going to the World Cup. Baliba's not going to the World Cup. And those are credible options as well. Man United have been looking at. Alex Scott, you've got as well. Um, I'm I'm assuming Angela Still is going to the World Cup, but there's a lot of options out there that are not going to the World Cup that you can look at buying. And these players could be bought. These aren't the most expensive ones either. So it could be that there is a benefit. Like we have say Harry Maguire not going to World Cup could be a bit of a benefit as well. No, I think there's going to be, but you can't buy all these players, can you? As well. So winning a domestic cup should be. Yeah, that's it. To be honest, is one thing we didn't get to see is we did not get to see. Yeah, what you look at as well. I think Edison. I do agree with JSN. Edison and Casemiro are not the same sort of player, so they are different players, and Man United can play differently with these players. But again, it's when you're looking at it in terms of like how you can construct midfield, it'll give Man United more options, won't it? So the way we've got at the moment, like it's pretty much Casemiro and Mainu, and that's our own midfield partnership. And actually, we saw Mason Mount work quite well with Mainu. But no, we're going to see something different. I'm not saying Edison would be suddenly transforming our team, but I think Edison would not be as bad as people think. Also, we don't even know how many games Edison will play, but he could be bought quite early, and that would be one way of getting the deals done. And so, no, I agree with this one that if you want to compete with Arsenal and City, you've got to sign better players, 100%. No, 100%. But at the moment, mate, no deals have been done. Like nothing's happened so far in the transfer window. I would say, based on last season, I think we signed better players than Arsenal did and better players than, say, Liverpool did. And those were the teams we were chasing at the time. You could say we probably signed better players. Maybe I'm trying to think who City signed. Like Semenyo's obviously good, but he hasn't really replicated what he did at Bournemouth yet. And Mark Gay, he's been a bit average, I think, since he's gone to Man City. He's had some good games, but he has had a couple of games, particularly in Europe, where he looked a bit. He wasn't great. Let's put it that way. So I think in terms of last season, Manchester United bought a better goalkeeper than Manchester City have, and I'd say he's comparable with the Arsenal goalkeeper at the moment. We bought better. We bought, Benjamin Sesko is a better football player than Sesko. I think Cunha is a better player than Martinelli, and I'd say Mbeumo, Saka over the whole season, probably similar contributions. I think our forward players we bought were actually better than Arsenal's attacking players. Arsenal's defence won them the league. That's probably the difference at the moment. And I agree with Cake saying that you've got to sign better players, haven't you? But also, I know people are looking at the individual players with a lot of scrutiny. I think you need to also you also have to make you also have to think about your squad, and the things that we need are not necessarily the things that Arsenal need, and the things that we need to work on are not necessarily the same things as other clubs. And to say that there's one player that's going to be the best player, that it could well be that Sandro Tonali might be more effective at Arsenal than he is at Manchester United, or vice versa. Like it could be that you look at, so Edison could be the player Man United need, like in their squad. They might need someone like Edison in their squad, and he might be a very good signing. It might not be that he has to play every single match or the highest profile matches, but he might be a very good squad signing just to raise the level in our team. So, I would always rather go for like the best possible players, but it's going to be. I think modern football isn't necessarily about individual players a lot of the time. It's about how good your team works, and we've seen this as well. That you drop, say you put Mason Mount alongside Mainu. Lots of people were looking at that game thinking, right, how's this going to work? And we completely destroyed Brighton. Like we created chance after chance. The football was really good, and that was Mason Mount and Koumeni. And to be honest, like early on in the season, we'd be looking at Casemiro and Agate starting, so completely different midfield, and they played very well together. So I have no problems with a lot of this is going to be like people will look at Edison and say, right, how is he going to be doing in a Man United midfield? And to be honest, we do not know because we don't know what the main plan is going to be. We don't. A lot of it's going to depend on like who's Edison going to be playing alongside. Does it mean that if you've got someone like Edison who's got more recovery pace, doesn't mean the back four can push up a bit more? Can we play a higher line? Can we actually press a bit more aggressively as well? Because Edison can do that as well and get back into position. So does having someone that's more mobile actually mean the team can play in a different way? So to say that Edison's better than Casemiro, of course he's not better than Casemiro, but he is different. And it does mean that the team can play differently, which might have a knock-on effect and making us actually more effective, and maybe we win possession back more. I know Casemiro is great in his duels, but he doesn't. He's not able to contest as many as other players like Anderson and people like Edison. So I think in terms of player profile, Edison is not that dissimilar to Anderson in terms of what he does on and off the ball, but he's doing it in Serie A, and I think that's why people don't rate him so highly. But he could do something similar at Manchester United because he's not reliant on one thing. Edison can do a lot of things pretty well, and that's why I think he could be. I think he might be not a bad signing. I know people are a bit negative, but I think it's a signing that could work out better than people expect. As Tony said, we could get now what we could do. I think we could do, and we should do this. I think we should get a combination of players done before the World Cup, if possible, and players that you could buy. Like you could get Edison done straight away, like we said, for about 38 million. Matheus Fernandez, looks like it's a deal that could, potentially happen very quickly, and that could be deal number two, and that gives you two midfielders. And then it means that, okay, if you want to risk it and take longer time to decide, maybe you can take a bit longer to decide whether whether Anderson actually wants you or not, or whether that's an important factor. It gives you a bit more time to see whether there is going to be something happen. I think what's going to happen with, like, if the punishment for City or the verdict for the 115 happens quite soon, then maybe that has a knock-on effect with what happens with Rodri, what happens with Anderson, and all these sort of things means that then Man United can make a decision. Because it's very difficult as a fan. Like, we're having a conversation now where we don't know what the situation at multiple clubs is going to be. We don't know what Mourinho's plan is. We don't know what the punishment for City is going to be. And until those factors become like a public knowledge, then we don't know what the situation is, and Manchester United will not know what the situation is. So if we had a conversation, say yesterday, and it was Man City have a transfer ban, we'd have a stream today where we're talking about, right, Man United can get Anderson done. We have to negotiate with Forest and find a sensible price. But because that's kind of it's up in the air. If you're Manchester United, is it worthwhile buying three players because players you can get, or do you hold out and go, actually, no, we want to sign one of these players? The only thing that might make it tricky is Arsenal have started talks with Tonali. I don't know how serious they are with this. That there was definitely a lot of this in January was agent driven. So a lot of this is like Tonali definitely wants to leave Newcastle. I think Tonali is like 99% certain to leave. The price is probably going to be not as expensive as a too many, not as expensive as an Elliot Anderson, but still quite a lot of money. And I think Man United would have a difficult decision. Like, what would you do in this situation? And like, what would you do in this situation where if Sandro Tonali is there, you can get him done for 80 million, 85 million, or there's like a 25% chance you can get Elliot Anderson, but you've got to wait 2 weeks, and you've got to, and if you wait for Elliot Anderson, Tonali's gone. And so if you have this situation where, let's be, maybe this is like not far off the percentages, but if you got 100% chance of getting Tonali for 85 million. Do you do that deal, or do you wait for a 20% chance at Anderson and a 20% chance at too many? Like, do you gamble that more likely than not you might miss out on those players, and then you'll have to go into the market and possibly play it a bit more for Alex Scott or Angela Stiller or Belieber, because that might be your backup option. Like, you might have, let's hold out for Anderson, let's hold out for too many. And if Sandro Tonali is then not on the table, you then look around and go, right, who else can we buy? And maybe that's why Alex Scott's been talked about. Maybe that's why there's going to be, a few other players talked about. What would you do in that situation? Because it's going to be pretty tricky. So Mourinho has personally watched him against Bayern. There's been a long-standing Real Madrid interest, hasn't there, for Angela Stiller. And I haven't seen much about Angela Stiller for a while either. Solly, big up to you, Solly, in the chat. Solly's saying Anderson, Fernandez, Edison, is that enough for us? In terms of midfield, I think Edison, Anderson, and Fernandez would be absolute top quality. You put Co-Manu in there as well. I think that would be fantastic. You got a bit of experience from Edison. You got Matheus Fernandez, I think, is that top quality. You got Co-Manu, I think, is top quality as well. Elliot Anderson, yeah, you got a mobile midfield there. No, it's tricky. But no, what do people think regarding that question then? Would you get Sandro Tonali for 85 million if the deal was there to be done? Or would you risk it and just hold out and just wait and hope that you can get, and just hope that City get, I don't know, relegated, a transfer ban, whatever it is going to be, points deduction, and have Anderson look at City as a club he doesn't want to go to? Because that's a bit of a gamble, isn't it? And it's something that, it's difficult to say what the best option is going to be. People watching as well, please don't forget to click the like on the video. Please don't forget to share the stream on your socials if you can, to try and reach a new audience as well. So please do that if you can do that. No to Tonali from Tony. So then I guess that if we sign two midfield players early, then effectively what we're doing is we're going to wait till after the World Cup to sign a third one, and maybe we're going to wait till we find out a bit more information about how things lie. But I think if there's a deal to get Tonali done, then I think at the moment in time you know I would be seriously considering a Tonali deal. That just looking at him as a football player, I know people question like the gambling issues as well. I think if you're looking at him as a football player, if you got Fernandez and you got, I'm just trying to think, like if you got Fernandez, Edison, and Tonali in, I think you can then these three players actually, none of them are at the World Cup. You could get those deals done before the World Cup, and then you could look at getting like Lewis Hall. There'd be enough money to get Lewis Hall as well. Then for me, that would be you get one like backup striker, you're kind of like there in terms of window. Yeah, that's four signings, like three midfielders, a left back. You might have enough money to get an attacking player and like a backup striker. I think that would be five good players and maybe like one cheap deal. I think would be a pretty sensible transfer window. We're talking about players walking into the first team, aren't we? So we'll have to see. So tonight's not the answer for you, but would love to be proved wrong. All I'll say is that I've spoken to a few football coaches recently, and when they're talking about Tonali, they forget what Newcastle do because they don't like what Tonali's doing under Eddie Howe, and they see like Tonali as the player that he was playing, how he played before he joined like Eddie Howe's team at Newcastle, and there's a lot more that Tonali can do. Like Tonali is a lot better football player than we see a lot at Newcastle. Like Newcastle, they're set up in a way which I don't think is amazing to watch, and I think that people would be surprised by how Tonali could play at Manchester United. I think he would be a good player, but yeah, no, exactly. Tyrone, when you speak to coaches that have worked professionally, and you ask them about Tonali, they say, look, Tonali, what he's doing under Eddie Howe, forget the numbers under Eddie Howe. Like the stats are irrelevant because of the way Newcastle play. Like forget what he's doing under Eddie Howe. Put Tonali in also as well. If you look at Newcastle, I saw a Newcastle fan channel last night. Tonali has, I think, the second largest amount of minutes at Newcastle United. He's pretty much playing every single match. He's one of the go-to players. He's one of the most important players in that team. And yeah, Newcastle struggled this season, but a lot of it's down to like their striking situation has been a disaster after they got rid of Isak. But no, I think people are judging Tonali based on Newcastle. Forget Newcastle United. It's a bit like judging Edison on last season. Like a couple of years ago, it was very, very different as well. So no, I do agree with you, Cake, that you have to, if you want good players, you have to spend the money. I think for some reason, Tonali is, I think a lot of people don't rate Tonali because of what they see this season. And Bruno Guimaraes, but yeah, Bruno Guimaraes is a bit older though, and does have a bit more issues with like missing games. So I think Bruno Guimaraes is a more important player in Newcastle's team, but that's also the way Newcastle have been set up to play as well. So I say if you take Tonali, do you remember how if you look at say look at Brentford as an example, as soon as like Ivan Toney left Brentford, suddenly everybody noticed how good Mbeumo was because Mbeumo stepped up. I think if you're looking at a situation with like Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes, I think Tonali could do the same sort of thing um, at Manchester United that I think he could definitely kick on and find a different level. But yeah, no, we'll have to see. Yeah, there is off the field issues as well. Big up to Overhead Kick TV. Good to see you in the chat. And the thing is, yeah, if Anderson's going to the City, Tchouameni's going to stay at Real Madrid. Who else is left on that level apart from Tonali? Says Jim. And that's what I was thinking when I was doing a poll. And I'll check the poll now because I thought I'd let it run for most of the stream and then find out what people are thinking. When you look at the poll, then if people are saying, right, what's most likely? Okay, if you voted for other, who is the player you think Man United will spend big money on if you're voting for these? Because I think in terms of most likely, Let's see, and just wait for the result to appear in the chat. And Overhead Kick TV says, I think Tonali is the best option. Are you a Manchester United fan, just out of interest? Just to see. So, most likely big money signing, Tonali, one out of the three people we had in the conversation. People that voted other, who do you think is the other signing? Like, who are going if we're going to spend big money, what player apart from these three would we possibly be looking at spending big money on? Because people voted for other, but what are you thinking in terms of like who would you spend the money on? And so for someone to screen the defense, it would have to be Belieber. You could have him as a single six. Tonali isn't that. I've seen people that talk about Tonali playing in Italy years ago, saying that Tonali could do that. That I'm not saying he could, but I'm saying that people I speak to say that he could definitely do that and would have that in his skill set. So that's what I'm saying. I think Tonali can do more than you see at Newcastle, and Tonali could do that, but he's not required to do that when he's playing for Newcastle. So the way Newcastle play is different. It could be that Tonali does that for Manchester United. It could be that Kobe Mainoo is going to be that player at Manchester United, or it could be that they're both going to play in a slightly different way. So I think for me, it's very difficult to. I would say, as always, if you look at what Belieber does at Brighton, he would do something different at Manchester United. And if you look at the way Elliot Anderson gets so much freedom to do things at Nottingham Forest, he probably wouldn't be doing like most people would say this. If Anderson goes to Manchester City, is he going to be able to play exactly the same way he does at Nottingham Forest? The same way that was Jack Grealish able to do what he did at Aston Villa at Manchester City? And I think every team is set up differently. If Tonali went to Arsenal, a lot of people would say actually that he would do really well at Arsenal, but why would you then say that he wouldn't do that well at Man United? I think what we're going to see here is there's going to be Manchester United will be building a midfield almost from scratch. Like don't forget we've got just Kobe Mainoo that's 100% going to stay. So we're going to build a midfield from scratch, and none of us know exactly how it's going to look. None of us know exactly what's going to be looking at either. Yeah, no, we might not even play. We might play with a six. We might play with two eights behind Bruno. We don't know how it's going to work out, and it could be that also we have the players to play multiple ways, like multiple different things. BHU Neil in the chat saying Scott and Hackney. I don't mind those deals either. People have been joking that I'm an agent for Hackney because I keep mentioning him as a cost effective signing, but no, I think you have to consider that given like the budget, or I think we've got a lot of money, but we've got a lot of problems, haven't we? So we haven't got as many problems as Jay-Z, but we've got quite a few. We've probably got at least three midfield problems. We've probably got a defensive one, a left wing, a striker backup, and a goalkeeper backup. So we've got like at least like potentially like to make this team suddenly a team where people will go, right, we can start competing. We probably need about seven players. And realistically, if we got five of those done in the summer, I would be sat here going, okay, it's never going to be done in one window, but I would be somewhat satisfied and go, actually, yeah, that's quite good. So it's not much. Yeah, it's not a secret anymore, Tabassus, is it? Unfortunately. But no, I'm going to have to head off in a second. I'll just go for a few comments, and we're going to be. I'm actually thinking about potentially stream times in the morning. Like 9 a.m. is going to be has been like our go-to time, and with people like turning up just now, I don't know whether it's worth like moving the stream a bit earlier or a bit later. I'm not sure because I think a lot of the news is coming out. There's so much news late at night that if I was a bit more proactive in the morning, I could start at 8 a.m. Would that be a better start time for people, which would be effectively, say, like 2 hours earlier than it is now? But I don't know what the best time for streams is. Is it going to be 8 a.m., 9 or 10 a.m.? And then I was thinking 8 a.m. would force me to get up early, which would be not great for someone that's not a morning person like myself. But it would be so. Gregory, that because Gregory, you only get to watch about 2 minutes because you're asleep. Would it be better if the stream was an hour earlier, and then you'd be say 10 a.m. for you, Neil? So there'd always be like a 1 p.m. a one like 1 p.m. stream in the lunchtime. But no, it's just about picking a time that works best. Big up Rob. But if people are just joining now, then 8 a.m. is too early for Stephanie. No, I was just thinking about because I wanted to. The time I start now is nice. Yeah, it's a bit like I get the feeling if I talk to you guys about transfers, then it's going to massively divide opinion, and if I ask you guys about stream times, it's probably going to massively divide opinion. I was just thinking like doing a 10 a.m. stream to 11 and then a 1 p.m. stream is like, yeah, I hate mornings as well, Neil, to be honest. Honestly, I don't know. It's not. I don't think it's about competing at the moment. 10 a.m. is probably the worst time because the United stand streams, and that's the biggest Man United fan channel in the world. So I think at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., it's no pretty similar. I think that you have like a reasonable channel, like decent sized channels streaming at 8 or 9. And again, no, if you prefer other channels anyway, it's not going to be a matter like problem, is it? 6 in the morning. You're like an hour ahead, aren't you? In Norway, Yarli. You get up at 4:30. That is wow. I'm more likely to be awake 4:30 at night than I am to get up at 4:30 in the morning. So no, so 9 a.m. is good for Steph. Ellie Anderson is the truth. Who was the basketball player that was called the truth? There was definitely I was trying to think. Allen Iverson was the answer. There was an NBA player called the truth. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's like was it the guy from Boston Celtics. It wasn't like Paul Pierce, was it? Was Paul Pierce the truth? When you said that, I kind of got a flashback to like 2000, like 5 or 6, and I was thinking there's definitely an NBA player that was the truth. I think it might be Paul Pierce of the Boston Celtics, but I could be wrong. I think basketball players used to have cooler nicknames back then. So I have gone a bit off track. Yeah, I can't influence the signings, and I can't really do much about that one as well. Um, I've just seen we've re-signed Tom Heaton. I think that got done a while ago, to be honest. That yeah, no, I think we've re-signed Tom Heaton, but Tom Heaton's part of the goalkeeping setup. Yeah, I thought so. I thought so. I haven't watched the NBA quite so much, but no, I thought it was Paul Pierce. He was only the truth when they got who was the other guys, Kevin Garnett and someone else to help him out. No, good player, but I'm a Lakers fan, so I didn't really like didn't really like him too much as well. The truth was on Transfer X Files, but yeah, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. too early for you. Shaq gave him the nick. Did he? Did Shaq give him the nickname? Okay, but Shaq was too busy like kicking ass at the Lakers, to be honest. So I think Paul Pierce would probably be a bit younger when Shaq was in his prime. Okay, I thought I've kind of like gone off track a little bit, but no. One of the things I was thinking is there's a lot of yeah, a lot of news coming out. So I'm just thinking what's the best way of doing things. But stream times will be close to an hour now. What's my view of Arsenal? View of Arsenal handle? What's that? What's Arsenal handle? I don't really understand the question. Unless Arsenal handle is something, or you mean something else. I don't have any view on Arsenal. I don't like the football club, and I don't. Apart from that, that's all I've got to say. One thing I would say complimentary about Arsenal is at least Arsenal got a fan base that celebrates trophies in numbers. That's something that other clubs don't have. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, maybe. The thing is though, the 1 p.m. stream, I kind of need to start setting up at 12. So it takes a lot of behind the scenes time prep, unfortunately. So I'm just thinking that it might potentially be like 8 a.m. in the future. I don't know. And if it is, then the streams will just be shorter. Like if I do a 9 a.m. stream, they just have to be an hour. They can't be much longer. And I will also a note for people as well that watch the channel. I will be away from Thursday to Saturday. There'll probably be an early morning, say Thursday stream, but there will be nothing else in the rest of the day. There'll be nothing on Friday. I might try and get some guest hosts, but I think it might be a struggle. And if I do that, potentially potentially like G Wolf might be up for hosting something, but again, I won't be able to be having much control over that. So now, okay, now one PM is like for me a good stream time. I'll do that, and I might work around it. In the evening, I'm thinking maybe like 8 PM ish or something like that. So cheers. For people that are interested, I'll just post a link because this is something that we've been doing for a while, and so I will invite you to the United TV Discord, which is where we share information as well. So around the channel, I will be like posting things when saying, when if you're watching live, then I can talk to you guys and say, look, I'm gonna be away. But if you want to be kept information as well, yeah, no, but it would be like maybe with these streams, I think what I might do is the streams might be shorter, like 45 minutes. So it might be that might be the future for the channel. I'm just thinking of what's sustainable long term. Like doing like three long streams is not possible. But if the streams are 45 minutes, I think we can do that. So that you might notice today we've been about an hour and six, but you know, this is a lot shorter than it was a few weeks ago. But there might be for people that want to follow. Let me just share something. Did I share the socials? I will be like trying to do a bit more on TikTok. It's something that I kind of started in the background a bit. There's about 40, I know about 44 people following me on TikTok, but I will I will start doing more regular stuff. Also, when I'm away on Thursday and Friday, I might potentially do like put information on TikTok and maybe do shorts on YouTube as a way of just doing something on a daily basis. So the main form of this channel is going to be long form content because you guys get to interact. But to keep you guys in the loop of things I see, I will maybe do a couple of shorts. I'm visiting family for just a few days, couple of days. It's wife's side of the family, so just doing traveling around UK for a couple of days. But no, I think that this is going to be the long-term plan as well. That say find co-hosts, get late afternoons a show, or the first 24/7 channel with many hosts. To be honest, actually, I do quite like the idea of having a few regular hosts. But honestly, it's a lot more difficult than you'd realize to get people that have enough time and just able to get their heads around kind of streaming stuff and sorting things out as well. So no, I think that's potential for the future. If the channel can grow, then we can get. I think one of the things that happens as well is when the channel grows, there gets more interest in it, and people might be more keen to do it. I think there's a very good community on the channel, but I think for people that are outside that don't know about it, having a bigger channel might help get them interested. But no, well, definitely, and also we are kind of like in talks with a couple of quite big Man United channels of potential collaborations. So that might be something. Um, Yes, I think so, Tyrone. I think so. That seems to be myself and Wolf have been working on a few things behind the scenes as well. Big up to you, Tunku, as well. Also, there are a few people I know at Tunku, like a lot of people on Spaces as well. I'm trying to think, like maybe this is a question I can ask you, Tunku, as you're in the chat. Like, what would be the possibility of creating on YouTube a forum where people that generally use Spaces a lot because Spaces are pretty much 24/7. What sort of what sort of format do you think would be a platform where people that are happy to join Spaces but don't feel like they can join YouTube channels, or how do you think that we can bridge the gap? Because I think there's a lot of people talking in Spaces that have got a lot of good knowledge and a lot of sensible opinions and a lot of diverse opinions as well. From like I've heard people talking about, say, Fernandez is better than Anderson, or they see good and bad in the Tonali deal. But I'm thinking of a way of actually there's a big community out there that I think doesn't have a platform on YouTube. Maybe they don't want a platform on YouTube, but I was thinking there's a lot of good speakers in there, and if we can provide a platform where maybe we have like a fan forum where I know for like 1 hour a day, people can just jump in, have their say. jump off, and maybe have like, no, it could be like something like 10 to 11 or like 9 till 10 p.m. where it's pretty much like an open mic. You can get 4 or 5 people on, and yeah, no, maybe that's what we could do as well. But I might speak to a few people that organize spaces and just invite them on as like as guest speakers and say, look, do you want to come on, have a chat? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that we can get involved with as well. Streaming spaces. I think with this one, I think to stream into spaces, like, I'd have to work out how to do that. But at the moment, I don't think I can stream on YouTube and Spaces at the same time without spending a decent amount of money on software that lets you multi-stream. I'm not sure at the moment. I'll have to work out if I can do it with OBS. Potentially, I could do that, but then I don't think I could get people on as guests. So I don't know. It could be a tech issue, Tanku, at the moment. I'll have to try and work out. Okay, if you message me with like an example of people that are doing it, I'll look into it. But as I said, I'm going to be away for a couple of days, so I won't be able to do too much. But for people interested, myself and G Wolf have been working behind the scenes just on the tech side of it to try and work out what we can do regarding like graphics, regarding setup. Because like having like the OBS means we got flexibility, but also it does mean that we can stream potentially multiple places at the same time if we can do that. It might be, yeah, it might be. I think it might be a technical issue we need to try and get our heads around because a lot of people use, say, StreamYard or Restream, but you have to pay quite expensive kind of monthly subscriptions. Where we're thinking actually let's make something that's getting more flexible because even those systems they don't have complete flexibility. So no, but said 'cause there's a good conversation going on, and I've not been ignoring you guys, but I'm just thinking that there's definitely a way of expanding things as well. So just to wrap up, if anyone's got any like final points, questions, I think what we're trying to do is, are you going to use video shorts more so that works with other channels, mix of live premiere and shorts combination? It could possibly be that. One thing I have noticed is if I do YouTube shorts, then obviously you get quite a wide range of you get more coverage and you get more views put out there. But a lot of people just watch the shorts and never get involved in the live streams. So, and when you say live premiere, do you mean like uploading videos? Do you mean like doing a live premiere where you upload a video and then just play at a certain time? Because I could be looking at trying to do something like that, I guess, Stephanie. But I think in terms of this one, Roy Keane, let's discuss him. No, 'cause what I thought we could do is like maybe like 1 hour a day. We could have a situation where we do it one stream and the theme is going to be what and one topic that's been trending in the daytime, and people can just come on, have their say, and do like a call-in type show. So I've seen it work on other channels quite effectively, and we could try and do that as well. So it could be that if you want to get involved in the channel, it's a way of actually getting people on. And I think the call-in shows have been quite popular as well. So it might just be me hosting. It might be myself and Tom G Wolf hosting, but we'll just kind of mix things up a bit and see how it goes. But no, but what I'm trying to say is that whatever we do, you guys can get involved in it as well. So if there's things you'd like to see on the Manu Art channel, this is your opportunity. So what I will do is on the channel, if you click on the channel's community page, then I can put polls there and questions, and people can respond with suggestions what you want. The Discord is there for everybody to use if they want to use that and get involved. But to grow the channel, I think it's kind of a group effort where I don't want to just schedule stuff and hope you guys are interested in it. But if there is things you want to discuss, at the moment it's all about transfers, I know. But if there's things you want to do or cover as a channel and as a community, you can let me know and we can try and work towards it. Yeah, no, I think so. I think so. I might do something like in terms of like shorts is obviously like the short one. And when you say medium stream, just quickly, do you mean like a 15 minute, do you mean like a video that's up like is the premiere, sorry, the medium stream, are you talking about a live stream that's just a short live stream, like a 30-minute live stream, with like a 25-minute live stream? or are you talking about an uploaded video that people can watch together, but it's not live? Like I'm not talking live. That's a long question. Maybe the question should be, right, premiere. Do you mean a pre-recorded premiere or just a short live stream? Because to be honest, I would say a short live stream might be easier to do than that one. Yeah, I think I think a lot of channels covered Roy Keane yesterday, and to be honest about Roy Keane, I don't really. Roy Keane has his view. I don't really listen to Roy Keane. I don't think I've seen that one actually. I don't think I've seen that one. I'm just after like Stephanie is the one person I know that watches a lot of content, so I'm just interested in Stephanie's view of whether if Stephanie's still in the chat, would you go for like a 10-minute video or like a I don't know 30-minute live stream? What I might do is I do like these these suggestions and that's a good suggestion, Genghis. I maybe is there a time of day where people would like a 10-minute video that because that I know if I do live streams like 1 p.m. will be the next one. Is there a time of day you think would be a good time? I mean, I'm gonna have to wrap up now because, like I said, I'm gonna have to go and get some food. But if you want to leave a comment on the Discord or a comment on the video in light of what we're discussing, please, please do so. But one of the things myself and G Wolf are working on behind the scenes is about collaboration with potential people we know that are on much bigger channels and see if they want to work with us and potentially do like a medium-term collaboration. So there will be a few things in the pipeline which could be quite good. So 10-minute videos are very effective, whether live or not. Okay, I might try any preferred time, Stephanie, or any preferred time from anybody else that okay, chat which is free. How does that work exactly? Maybe you have to message me, Tunku. I'm not sure. I'm not very familiar with spaces apart from jumping on a few recently, but maybe that would be yeah, maybe 10 minutes or around 10 minutes keeps people engaged. Yeah, maybe with this one as well. It says keep need to get the headlines correct, borderline clickbait. Yeah, well, I think today I was going to do. I thought about this stream and I wasn't sure what to do. I almost did a story. Okay, this was going to be that I wasn't sure how to cover the stories, and I do kind of like pick one usually. I almost went with this as the lead story. It was almost going to be 69 million deal, too many. I don't know. The thing that made me, I thought this story felt unrealistic, but it's like BBC. So I was just like thinking this is like the mainstream mainstream British media. I was thinking, but it sounds a bit like it sounds a bit unrealistic, but it's backed up by good sources, isn't it? So 10-minute video could be alternative to live at 1 p.m. Mix up a bit. It could, yeah, it could be a good idea actually, Stephanie. I think sometimes the problem is I probably overthink things, and overthinking things you just waste time. But maybe with this one, if I could work out how to do things remotely, I could probably record short videos. I think when I'll probably just stick to shorts when I'm yeah. Amazon deal done. Use the question mark to cover your back against clickbait claims. No, to be honest, most things at this point in time, most things I put question marks because no one knows. Again, and people are people aren't stupid. People watch the channel and they know that we talk about the deals in detail and we just discuss it as well. So people know that we're not sat here saying done deal. It's definitely going to be happening. We're just kind of not sure what's going to be happening. Yeah, I get the feeling that Man United are not cooperating with making things straightforward and transparent, are they? They've got a few things they've got a few things they're discussing, but no one knows for sure. That's why I think people get angry because they think we're not going to get good deals done, but no one actually knows what they're going to be seeing. So you didn't joke about barbecuing while commenting on football. The problem was that when I was barbecuing, I had a lot of impatient family angry because I was talking about football for too long on the weekend, that the barbecue was delayed. So I couldn't really live stream the barbecue because you'd have people angry that don't want to be filmed around it. But I think make a lot of good points there. Uh, did anybody hear that the door just opened behind me? My daughter just came in and said, "Are you talking about angry barbecue?" Uh, I don't know if I tried to mute the mic then because my daughter just came in and said, "What are you talking about? You talking about angry barbecue?" Yeah, these are things that you don't get to see behind the scenes. Um, no, we are looking at channel collaborations, but it might take. I'll say this, okay? Um, United TV's channel collaborations are a little bit like Manchester United's transfer deals, okay? That myself and G Wolf are talking about like a big deal, but it might take longer to do. So, um, in terms of collaborations, we're trying to speak to someone that's a major Manchester United content creator. Not obviously like we're not talking about United stand. We're just talking about in the kind of fan environment, like it's like a one person. But we are thinking that potentially with this one we could try and do this, but it's going to be quite difficult, isn't it? Because you're trying to think of a way which benefits both channels as well. So yeah, I mean, Angry Barbecue is like something we could do as a sideline, possibly. You know, um, who should Elliot Anderson blame if he decides to go to Man City and they get relegated in the future? Okay, this might be the last question. If Elliot Anderson decides to join Manchester City and then they get relegated, Elliot Anderson should just blame himself, shouldn't he? Like it's up to Elliot Anderson where he goes. And as Stephanie said earlier, about 10 minutes ago, players decide where they play football. Players decide which clubs they want to. It's not about Man United spending more than City. It's about it's about Elliot Anderson deciding where he wants to play. Elliot Anderson knows knows the situation at City. If he decides to go there, he's to blame, isn't he? And you know, maybe it's going to take a bit long. Maybe he's going to have to go there and get a relegation clause put into a City contract. Maybe that's going to be the delaying factor, and that would be quite a funny one. Yeah, to be honest, it mixed up a bit. The only thing putting me off, I'm not sure in bright sunshine I can actually see much on my phone to actually record it. So I don't know if it would be actually, I don't know, leave it with me. Leave it with me, like a short 10-minute video. If I can film a video on my phone that's decent quality, maybe I'll see. Maybe a YouTube short or a TikTok video from the barbecue situation. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. And then guys, say what's the draw with City? Um, I don't get it either because there's no The thing that's actually this is going to be the last comment. The thing is, without Pep, then there's no guarantee of trophies anymore. There's no guarantee of City have to play by the rules. They won't be able to get as many players as they have done in the past. And it might be that when Haaland leaves, City are going to have quite gaping holes in their squad as well. I don't see what the draw is. You've got a small fan base. You're not going to get you might not get more financially either because when they play by the rules, their turnover will come down. They won't be able to spend as much as they have done, and certainly if you consider the turnover of clubs, if you put everything through the books legitimately, Manchester United will raise more money than City. So will Liverpool. So will Arsenal, as a lot bigger global fan bases. And I think that with City they won't be able to outspend people. So I think that if they play by the rules, they won't be as big a club quite soon. So hopefully that will be the case. But guys, I'll probably be back at 1 p.m. today. Thanks for the feedback on different scheduling things. I will try and post something in the community page on the channel, and hopefully we can speak about this later in the day. But 1 p.m. is probably going to be the time. Until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. It's a bit cooler here today, actually, so it might be a bit nicer. We'll catch you guys then.